let's talk about what you need to do, what you should do to make yourself less of a target. And that is make yourself as invisible as possible and have spines poking out if they do happen to find you. To say you're going to have to work really hard to cut through these spines and get to the skin to get to the good stuff. Okay. And that's what we have. We have a contract law, non-grantor, irrevocable trust. Contract law meaning that it was not passed by an act of a legislature. It is based on our constitutional right to have a contract. Our trust is literally a contract. It's Article 1, it's the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10. No state shall pass any law interfering with the obligation of contracts. That's a paraphrase. I apologize for that, but that's the gist, okay? So in the Constitution, this first section, Article 1, Section 10, that shows you how the founding fathers respected contract, the right to contract. We still have that right. So our contracts have nothing to do with any act of a legislature, any law that was passed in the history of the United States, with the exception of the United States Constitution. Period. So, what does that mean? It means that if I have a contract law, non-grantor irrevocable trust that we're offering, then if you use that as the entity where you want to hold your assets, then there will be no public record of the creation or the registration of this trust in any state of the union. Period. Because they are not required to register with any Division of Corporations or Secretary of State or Indian reservation in the entire country. They're not. So for 20 plus years, I had an S corporation. And if you knew the name of my corporation, you could go to Florida, sunbiz.org, and you could find it. And I incorporated in December of 2003. I think I closed, I believe, in 2023. So every tax year, every fiscal year, you could go in there and you would see all of my annual reports. You'd see me, the addresses, because I work from home. So my home address was there too. The officers, their information, everything was public record. The properties under my S Corp, you would have seen all of them. You could have, when you had that, you could have taken that you could have gone on public record and you could have compiled a list. Okay? That's what you could have done with my S Corp. Now, even if you happen to know the name of my trust, which I don't give out, and even if you did, it is a hodgepodge of, letters. It's like passwords. It's not like a password like with your cat and your daughter's birthday or something like that. That could, somehow smart hackers could figure that stuff out. It's like when Apple automatically generates a password for you, right? And it's just gobbledygook. There's no record. Okay. Now, if you have real estate and you have your properties inside this trust, the deed is going to show the name of the trust. Can't do anything about that. But, it's one of those things again where your profile is less. There's much less information there than you could find in an LLC or someone's own name or some kind of a corporation. It's like you get maybe 7% visibility as opposed to 100%. It's out there. Okay. So that's reason number one why you should look at having all of your assets in a trust like this. Now, there is another reason why you want to do this, is because in 70 years of these trusts' existence, they've been around for over 70 years now. They came out in the 1950s. There has not been one instance, any time, where a court issued a turnover order against one of these trusts. What does that mean? That means that the assets were never, that the trusts were never penetrated and were never, and the assets were never forfeited in a lawsuit. Ever. You ever wonder what the success rate for an LLC is or a corporation? I bet it's not nearly never, right? And so here's where we go back to the cherry tree and the cactus at the beginning of this live. The trust is a cactus. The spines are what we call the spendthrift provision. The spendthrift provision is what makes it next to impossible to sue. It is the deterrent that stops most attorneys, most people from even taking a shot at it because, first of all, it's never happened before. Thirdly, why are they going to spend money on that? They're looking for the low-hanging fruit. The very fact that you have all your assets in a trust, this trust, is going to solve 95% of your asset protection challenges just by that alone. Okay? Case in point, I have during COVID, there was a foreclosure moratorium, and there was all of a sudden we went from there's a huge glut, not a glut, but a deficit of houses. There were more buyers. There was like 20 buyers to one property being sold. It was like a feeding frenzy. And I specialize in doing short sales. And a short sale is when a property that the amount owed on the mortgage is more than the mortgage amount. Excuse me, the worth of the property. So if I can sell a house for 150, but I owe $200,000, that is an upside down house where there's no equity, there's no profit. But in a short sale, I can negotiate with the bank and get them to say, okay, we think the property, we think the property is 150,000. They owe the homeowner owes 200,000 on it, so we can get the bank to come down and say, okay, we'll take 130. That $20,000 difference, that's my profit. All right. So having said that, a lot of people were in the market trying to buy houses and they didn't have a clue. Even the realtors had no idea how a short sale works. So they were thinking, well, if the so the contracts stated that the contract was contingent upon third party approval. The bank has to agree, and the bank sets the price. So they want to sign a contract for $150,000. That's fine. It means nothing until the bank says yes. And the bank comes back and says, no, we want 150. And they're going to say, no, 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 no. We have a contract. You have to do it. And they were saying that I had to make up the difference. Right? And it's like, no, you don't. And here I was right. Remember when we were talking about how if I do everything right, I can't be sued? Everything was right. Everything, that contract was iron tight. It was tight. I was covered. My butt was covered out the yin yang. But they still wanted to sue because they were desperate. Okay. So let me tell you something. Thankfully, because I had all my assets wrapped up, there was nothing in public records. As far as public records was concerned, I didn't own anything. I didn't even know my vehicle because the trust owned it. Real estate, crypto, everything was owned by the trust, which is not listed in public record, like I said. Okay. So when they're doing this asset search to sue me, 3 times this happened. I know they went through this process. Nothing. They got nothing on me. Okay. Well, they knew the trust was involved in this transaction because that was a part of the contract. I signed as a trustee and the trust was involved in the contract. So they knew the name of the trust. They couldn't find anything about it in public records. They saw that there was some they could find they could see deeds and stuff in there, but they didn't really have an idea, whatever. But then, so I was minimized. They could still find some stuff. I mean, you can't be 100% uh, invisible. You just try to bring it down as low as you can. But here's where those thorns, those spikes come in with the cactus. Okay, spendthrift provision. And so I talked. I didn't even bother getting an attorney because I felt like I can do this on my own. So they reached out to me and I called them up. I told him, I said, you can look. I mean, if you want to go after me, that's fine. I said, but you're not coming after me. You're coming after this trust. And I told him what kind of trust it was, had a spin-through provision. I said, I suggest you do some research about these trusts. And I said, if you want to waste your time trying to sue this, good luck, but you'll get nowhere. You know what? All three times they backed away. Do you think they would do that with an LLC or a corporation? Mm-mm. They wouldn't do it.